All right, welcome back to the channel. It's Fast Cars, Fast Money. We're talking about the Cup Series at Michigan. If you're new here, we make NASCAR DFS content, or if you've been here for a while and you haven't hit that subscribe button, we would greatly appreciate that. We're just shy of 900, and we're going to hopefully keep inching our way closer to that 1,000 goal that we have. If you want access to the spreadsheet, look at it yourself, look at the notes, ask us questions. You can go over on X, it's at FastCarsFM. Then finally, on the support tab there's a couple of different links if you had a good weekend and you just want to say, thank you. Um, so getting into the race preview and initial thoughts, we got a 200 lap race. Michigan, if you don't know, is a 2 mile, intermediate style track. It's the fastest track that we go to. With rain in the area, of course, we had very, very limited practice data. So I think you can account for that data, but I wouldn't rely on it heavily. Qualifying was canceled as well. So the starting grid has been set by the formula. Teams did not qualify there on speed. So what are we really looking at? For me, I think you can look at previous Michigan races, specifically in the next gen era, and then I would really just look at the 2024 intermediate style, data that we have. So that gets us to the driver by driver breakdown. And then hopefully, I'm still recovering from this freaking surgery. I should have about a month left, hopefully, until I can kind of get back to my normal setup. So bear with me. Kind of the makeshift setup in the meantime. But getting to the driver by driver breakdown, with 200 laps, there's still dominator points for sure. Like you still want to get lap leaders in your lines, but it's not like a 300, 400 lap race where you really need to emphasize and prioritize those plays. So for me, it's really just trying to find, maybe one guy, to build around, potentially two guys to build around, and then really just trying to attack some of these place differential upside plays who I think can still, clock off some fast laps or even potentially get out front and get to the lead. Um, so when you talk about intermediates, the two drivers that come to mind, the two drivers that price at the top are going to be Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. Um, Both of them, if you look at their stats, are just significantly better than everyone else on these track types. I think Kyle Larson has 3 wins here. I think Denny Hamlin has the most dominator points, or one of them between Larson and Hamlin have the most like dominator points on these track types. So when you talk about lap leaders, talk about dominators, guys that are going to contend for wins, guys that can accumulate most of those dominator points. I think you have to start with either Larson or Hamlin. I don't mind if you play them both together. I don't mind if you just play one of them. I'd probably give the slight edge to Hamlin just because he starts on the pole, and we know clean air is king with these cars. So he has a great chance to be that early lap leader. But I like both of them today. I'm going to have a good amount of ownership. Fords have historically been really good at Michigan. I think they've won like 9 of the last races or 8 of the 9 last races here. You got Ryan Blaney there at 10-3. He's been good at the intermediate tracks, but just not as dominant as Larson and Hamlin. And then you got Truex right behind him as well. So it's going to be hard to get to Blaney. Blaney's probably going to be the lowest owned of the expensive plays, just because of who he's priced around. He's a little bit more of a tournament option. Truex is going to be extremely popular. Of the limited laps that were run, Truex was, towards the top, if not at the top, at the practice charts for some of the different lap averages. And a nice bonus is, he starts 24th, so he gives you some place differential upside. So, going to be a really popular play. I think you can pair him with Larson, you can pair him with Hamlin. That's going to be a popular build for most people. And then really Bell, Reddick, Elliott, and Byron. I'm not trying to be lazy by any means, but I think all of these plays are very similar. When you look at the data coming into the weekend, their stats are close. They all kind of start inside the top 10. All of them are not favorites to lead laps by any means, but we know they have the ability to get out front to lead laps. We know they can earn some fast laps. Reddick has been pretty good on the intermediate style tracks. He starts second, so for whatever reason, maybe Hamlin doesn't have a good start. Maybe Reddick's the early lap leader, and he's a little bit cheaper. Bell's been running really good as of late. Elliott's just been super consistent. Byron was pretty good early in the year, but lately hasn't been as good. But again, he can show up at at any time. So I think Bell, Reddick, Elliott, and Byron more, GPP plays, maybe more pivot options off of Larson and Hamlin as your potential lap leaders. I really like Brad Keselowski today. He's been really strong on these track types, has one of the best average finishes, actually only behind Larson and Hamlin. When you look at the different tracks that we're using for comparison, also gives us some place differential upside and kind of a decent price point for 9K there. Um, Talked about how good Ford's been here, but if you look at Logano and the intermediate tracks that he's been on, he just hasn't gotten up to that next, dominator tier. Usually runs well, kind of around eighth to 12th. He starts 14th. So, he's probably going to hang around being a top 10 contender, but, for where he's priced and who he's priced around, I'd rather attack some other plays. Busher did win this race last year, so I think he offers you some place differential upside, at this price. He's been similar to Logano stat wise, he gives you a little bit of extra place differential points, which is nice. He did win this race last year, so he might get a little bit of an ownership bump because of that. But I really like Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs has shown really good speed at the intermediate tracks. He usually runs well during the race and hasn't always gotten the finishes that um, paint the whole picture and kind of show how fast that car was. So I'm hoping they can kind of put together a solid race today. For $8,400 starting 19th, some good place differential upside. Bubba Wallace, you can kind of throw them in the same category as Bell, Reddick, Elliott, and Byron. I think all of those drivers have more likelihood of leading laps, but I think Bubba Wallace could easily clock off some fast laps. He's pretty good at Michigan, and he gives you a nice price discount off of Bell, Reddick, Elliott, and Byron. So, more of a tournament option, but he excels on these intermediate tracks, and especially Michigan. Michigan has been a good track for him. Um, because of that, I'm really just not getting the Chastain. I'd rather just play Wallace with the, dominator upside that I think he offers. I'd rather get to Gibbs or Busher with the place differential. Chastain's just kind of in a tough starting spot there. Then Kyle Busch, when you talk about RCR, usually, the intermediates are better for them. However, this has just been a terrible year for Kyle Busch. I mean, his average running position and finishing position on these track types we're looking at are both in the 20s. That's not going to do it for us. Um, Bowman's another guy, kind of like Ty Gibbs. I prefer Ty Gibbs. I think he has more upside, but Bowman offers good place differential upside too. He's only $7,800. Limited practice data, but he was in the top 10 for the 5 and 10 lap averages. He can give you some positive points. Not really getting the Suarez, Barry, Cindric, or Hocevar. Either A, they just start too far forward, or B, almost all of these drivers usually are finishing around 20th or so. So just not really a lot of upside. Noah Gragson starts 25th. I think he can move forward. He's usually a guy that finishes around 20th as well, potentially a little bit higher. I'd rather get to Eric Jones. For whatever reason, this team and Eric Jones do really good on relatively speaking, but really good on the intermediate tracks. They have an average running position and finishing position here in the teens. So good value for what you can get. You're going to need some of these cheaper options when you're building, getting those expensive guys in up top. Michael McDowell, really not getting to Chase Briscoe, really not getting to Austin Dillon. I'm not really getting to. I think you can get to Stenhouse though. He starts pretty deep. 30th. He can, move forward, get you like a 22nd place finish, which will be okay. And then Todd Gilliland starts a little high for me, but I still like him. He's been just a top 20 machine as of late, trying to get a late push into the playoffs. Justin Haley, haven't seen him do as good on these big, fast, types of tracks. Starts 29th, but he's someone that can finish, maybe 25th or so. Brian Priest, I'm really just not getting to. I think AJ Allmendinger is probably going to be the most popular punt option. He was 10th in practice, which is encouraging. He basically starts DFL, so should be a really popular punt option. I think John Hunter Nemechek's a good punt option as well. We know how good Eric Jones is. Maybe they can translate some of that speed into the 42 car. And then I'm not really getting to Smith, LaJoy, Burton. I think if you do need to come down the slow, just go all the way down to like Hemrick or Ware, um, and just try to attack the top. So for me, I'm really building around Hamlin and Larson today as my main lap leaders. My pivot lap leader options would be Bell, Reddick, Elliott, Byron, even Bubba Wallace to a certain extent. Really like Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, Bowman, Jones, some place differential upside, plays. So, and Truex obviously too. So that's going to be it for the Michigan race. Hope you guys do well today, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you for tuning in and sticking with us.